And you're watching live coverage, day 2 of the Mackinac Policy Conference. I'm Christy McDonald. Thanks so much for joining me here in the parlor of the Grand Hotel. It's got to be the greatest place to work. Joining me right now is Sharita Smith. She is the Vice President of Community Development at Cinnair, and it's good to see you, Sharita.
Likewise. Good to see you, Christy.
This is your first policy conference, and it can be an interesting experience when you just start to connect with different people and have these valuable conversations in just different corners of the hotel, I think.
Yes, it's been great. Of course, connecting with a lot of folks I already know from in and around the city, and then getting to meet some new folks and understanding all the different work that's taking place across the state and how Detroit kind of fits in there. So,
and you've done work with neighborhood groups before. This is a new role for you in Cinnair. Tell us a little bit about what you're specifically working on.
Yeah, so at Cinnair, we believe that all people deserve the quality of life that you get from living in a healthy, vibrant community. And so we work to create those kind of communities that align very much with my own sort of personal mission around creating pathways to opportunity for folks, because that starts in your neighborhood. And so my work really is to leverage all the resources, the expertise that Cinnair has, and bring that to bear in the Detroit market.
I think it's interesting when you say what folks need, but it's also what they deserve.
Yes.
And what they should demand. And I was looking at some of the things that you've written and talked about. What is the difference between just what they need and what they deserve and should demand?
I think that because of all that we've been through in Detroit over the last couple decades or so, whether you're talking about municipal bankruptcy or the foreclosure crises, all these different things have ravaged a lot of our neighborhoods. Yeah. And so I think that when you're just in a position of responding to crises, sometimes you forget about aspiration, right? You forget about vision and what it is that you really want, deserve, and desire in your community. And so I think that Detroiters oftentimes are not given the respect that we deserve when it comes to the neighborhood and the quality of life that should take place in every community.
Let's talk about that and quality of life and housing and home ownership and being able to afford a home. What are you doing the work surrounding that right now?
So some of the work we're doing specifically at Cinnair is we have a lease purchase program where we're actually giving low-income families an opportunity to own their home. And it may be a home that they've rented for some time. We have across the city of Detroit, I believe, upwards of 1,500 of these single-family scattered site homes that were developed using the low-income housing tax credit program maybe 15 or more years ago. And so now as those properties come out of compliance, we have an opportunity to give those folks an opportunity to own that home. And so we've been working in partnership with organizations like Opportunity Resource Fund and CHN to create a pathway to home ownership for folks that are 60% of the AMI and as low as 30% of the area median income. And it's a fantastic program.
And again, being able to flip people from renters to owners. And that's what I think is an important data point to take a look at as well.
Yes, and a key part of the initiative that we have is really around making sure that you're not paying more to move into home ownership than you were already paying to lease that home. And so we're early in the work, but I believe it's really a great game changer and opportunity, right, for people to begin to build wealth. You hear a lot about closing the racial wealth gap, right, and helping people to connect to opportunity. So that program is one that I think is going to be great to create a pathway.
And looking at also, at talent and finding jobs in those middle wage jobs, that there is a trajectory for people to be able to grow within and continue to raise their income and have a path.
Yeah, I think economic mobility is a really important aspect that we can't ignore when we look at the household median income for the city of Detroit. You're talking about more than 50% of the folks being at 50% or less of the area median income, which is about $31,000. So imagining a household, right, really trying to thrive and grow with scarce resources. And so not only providing a home ownership opportunity, but we're trying to wrap around that some other supports, right, where they're getting coaching and case management in financial management and help with accessing jobs and accessing education and other resources, right, to really stabilize those families and help them to grow.
I think what's really interesting about the Mackinac Policy Conference that I have seen change in the 12 years that I've been doing this is different voices coming up here. And, said this is the first time that you've been up here. What is the value of bringing the work that you are doing right now and bringing the power of the voices that people in neighborhoods across the city of Detroit and bringing their stories here to business leaders who have the ability to fund change, to listen to what needs to happen, to build and create those jobs, those mid-wage jobs that need to be filled. Explain to me a little bit of that power.
So I think it's absolutely essential that we begin to center our most vulnerable. A lot of times our conversations are very high level, right, when we talk about resources and opportunity and things like that. But the state can only go as far as our most vulnerable residents. And so if we can center them in the conversation and in the discussion and make sure that we're creating opportunity for children, for families to not only survive, but to thrive, right, and to grow, we've got to be able to put them at the center of the conversation. And so, again, as a Detroiter, as a resident, someone who's grown up in and around the city and worked here my whole life, I'm honored and certainly understand the privilege that I have to be here and to be a part of these conversations, and hope we continue to create more space, right, for our residents in Detroit and across the state to be heard, and so we can understand what those needs and aspirations are.
Yeah, let me take a step back. And when you bring a personal vision and a passion to the work that you do, and how would you explain to people, I guess, how people come to you with perceptions of Detroit? How have perceptions of Detroit changed? And what do you, I guess, kind of push back against?
I think we have to push back against a narrative that Detroit is this blank slate, right? And that
you can come in and do anything you want to do.
You can come in and do whatever you want to do.
Really offensive.
It is extremely offensive, right? Like, there's rich history, rich culture, rich context that exists in the city, and all you have to do is bump up against everyday Detroiters and hear their stories and hear their experience and learn, right, from the people that are here to understand what the future could be and should be, because it needs to be inclusive of the folks who've been here, and their dreams, their wants, their aspirations have to be at the center of the conversation.
We talk an awful lot about population growth, not only in the state of Michigan, but especially in the city of Detroit. When you look at that and you say, what is it going to take to change, to grow more families in the city of Detroit so people are not leaving, what do you think that we need to do?
I think that we have to address some of our systemic issues, right? We've heard a lot about some of the challenges around property tax. We've seen the just detrimental impact that the foreclosures around property tax have had on neighborhoods and communities. And so I think property tax reform is going to be an essential part of that. I think making sure that we have quality education that can compete with anywhere, not just in the state, but in the country, is going to be important to the future of Detroit. And I think having neighborhoods that are rich in opportunity, where people have access to jobs, have access to health and well-being, have access to all the things that you need, right, for a great quality of life. Because we hear all the time that where you grow up is really a determining factor of life outcomes. And so how can we make sure that Detroiters have opportunity-rich communities so, again, they can thrive and have access to all the opportunities that you need for a great quality of life?
Have you been able to work in lockstep with the city of Detroit? Has it been a helpful partnership? And are there different policies that you're working on right now? I know you did talk about some about tax policies and whatnot.
So I would say that we have had an opportunity to partner with the city on some of the challenges we were having in the lease purchase work and creating those home ownership opportunities. So we partnered very closely with the city in that work to unwind some of the MSHDA compliance and some of the home loan fund debt that was around some of these developments, some of the parcel identification, all those technical issues.
I don't want to bore people also with, drag
but
things
they
down,
are
though.
Extremely important.
Right.
And so we've worked very closely with the city to be able to resolve those issues. So as they look to scale this work up, as other partners come in and want to use these same units as an opportunity to create home ownership, we've got a playbook right now of how you deal with these issues so folks can come in and have a much smoother road as the next projects come online. And I think, again, we are part of groups that are working on things like property tax reform, we try to stay in those conversations as best we can. Anything that we can do to help advocate for the future of neighborhoods.
And I'm glad that you're having these conversations up here. Sharita Smith, it's so good to see you from Sanair, and I hope we see you again up here next year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. And we'll be right back. Stay with us.